It has been a minute with my next guest, so I am all the more grateful to finally be catching up after all this time with my brother from another mother, Bruce Clifford. How you doing, my man?
I'm great. The other mother, we're talking about Benjamin Franklin, or what's the brotherly love? I feel it.
Exactly. So good to see you. So good to hear you. Bruce is the pride of Bensalem, Pennsylvania, now a Los Angeles-based actor. He has nearly 60 credits on IMDb, independent films, short films, student films, commercials, print. He did a State Farm ad that looked really, really good recently. You also did a Palm Springs tourism spot with your significant other that I'm very jealous. Looked like that was a good time.
Very fun.
Very, very cool.
Very fun. Yeah. That's cool that you point all that out, because it's fun to look back at seeing those credits and knowing where I got my start. And it's humbling, because it's like you put in all the time and sometimes you don't look back and see how far you've grown. So just to hear the number of credits, not that it matters or inflates my ego or anything, but it's kind of just like, oh, that's cool. You start from one and you just keep going. You meet new people, and if you're just interested, it just grows from there. So it's beautiful to look back in perspective and know all I know now and be like, wow, it's so cool how far I've come.
Indeed. And not the least of which, we're going to get to veterans television, the Grunt's life. I really want to dig into that.
Oh, yeah.
Over 20 episodes, over 2 seasons as Staff Sergeant Rich. And I really want to hear the story of how that came about. And of course, too, if people are interested in following you on the Instagram, they can have their Bruce's Daily Dose. And life, of course, is not complete without that every day. And they can check that out on your IG.
Thank you.
Let's get the most important question out of the way first. How's the weather today in SoCal?
We've been going through a little bit of a heat wave here in October, so it's been up in the 90s. This past weekend, actually went to the beach, and it through the valley up here, it got to 107 in October. So yeah, we're going through a little bit of I guess global valley warming up here. So it's heat wave. Starts off like a little bit gloomy, which I like a lot, and then it clears up. But yeah, it's been getting up there. Yeah.
Well, speaking of heat waves or lack thereof, give me a weather report as it relates to the state of the industry where you are. Like, I'm reading articles and I'm seeing threads and I'm watching videos of people walk through studio lots in Burbank, and they're showing empty sound stages, and they're alluding to little to no new television production. They're kind of painting this ominous picture, along with stories of crew members some are leaving, going to Texas, wherever it is that they want to go for work, New Mexico, Atlanta. Given that you're on the ground, what's your assessment? Is there work? Is there work at the 40,000 foot level of TV and film? How's the work in the commercial market? Where do you see the state of the business?
Yeah, I'll just start with this. I think the industry, especially in LA, is in a weird, funny, never before seen place, with many factors. We just had the strike, of course. We have AI. We have a huge change with everything that's going on with like studio dynamics, streaming. There's so many streaming things now. It's like I find myself overwhelmed with what to decide to watch sometimes. But then on the other hand, it's kind of like, what I've been hearing recently is studios are afraid to take risks on new stories. But looking forward, I've heard that 2025 is going to be on an upswing. But right now in LA, you're going to hear a bunch of different stories. You're going to hear people complaining about not a lot of work. You're going to hear people being like, I'm getting all these brand new opportunities because there are things picking up a little bit more than they were this past year. So I think it's a matter of perspective and keeping your eyes kind of open for a little bit of everything. Recently, for me personally, commercial work has been my bread and butter for the past couple of years. I would say about 75 to 80% of my jobs have been commercial work, and opportunities have been commercial work. And it's been so much fun. It's been so much fun to play in that realm. So I think companies are always looking for ads. And it's funny. It feels like once you're done shooting one ad, it feels like the next one already wants to come out. That's how fast it moves, especially for these social media ads, because our attention has gone to these 1-minute videos from scrolling. And you have this new generation of kids, teenagers who constantly just look at TikTok. The numbers came out that the most watched streaming is not Netflix, not Apple, not Hulu. It's YouTube. It's crazy.
Wow.
YouTube is the most watched streaming platform. And that just goes to show that people will go on there and search what they want. People will see ads on there. People, you have a lot of kids television on there. That's easy. Just give a kid an iPad and just be like, here, watch this for 15 minutes. You can learn on the go, which is awesome. I love where that education is headed. And I'm always saying that I would rather teach my kids that way than send them to 8 years of education, because I feel like you can learn more in a day on YouTube than you can in like 2 years of schooling. But yeah, I think the state of the industry out here, it's all perspective, right? I mean, you can play the victim mentality of like, oh, things aren't happening. What do I do? I'll wait around. I'll sit around. I feel hopeless. Or you can kind of have like the creative mindset of, well, yeah, maybe things are slow right now, but what can I do to be creative on my time? What hobby can I practice? What things interest me that I can be curious about? So yeah, I think it's about kind of switching the perspective around. And I did read this morning that I think it was about 1,700 jobs were lost in LA because production's moving to different parts of the country. But again, I think it just goes in cycles. We'll see that happen here, and then maybe we'll get some tax breaks again, and then more production will come. So I think it's kind of like, it's funny. I'm really into like stocks and investing now. So I kind of see it like watching a stock chart. You're going to have these really volatile times. You're going to have this rise and it's going to be like cool. And then you're going to have these drops. It's just going to be like, it's just the nature of things. Some things will pick up sometimes and some things won't. I think LA will always have a need for a creative outlet. Who knows how that's going to look like in 3-5 years with AI and everything. But I think we just need to learn how to use it as a tool, use it as a commingling tool to create more. I mean, you can either take it as AI is going to kill everyone, it's going to get sentient and replace everyone, or you can be like, yo, this thing is more productive than I could ever be in the span of a week, just in an hour. So I think all of us creatives have to learn how to use it as a tool for, I want to say, not the speed of things, but to use it to help the quality of our work.
Well, you're confirming everything that I've read as it relates to industry temperature. And I did not know about YouTube in terms of that stat. And I think it leads into the understanding and the realization that we're also entertaining ourselves now between TikTok and YouTube. And that begs the thought that, oh, wow, creating our own work is now more important than ever.
I totally agree, because it's like that mindset. I like to tell myself, because I get caught in that pattern all the time. I'm like, you know what? Don't wait, create. Because if you spend your time waiting, you're just going to find yourself going down these like rabbit holes of like, is there something wrong with me? Like, what's going on? And then you start blaming like the industry, you blame your agents, you blame everything but you. But now more than ever, and we've been hearing this forever, the last 10 years, we are in control of our creative output, So I believe that you have a sketch idea, you have a funny idea, just put it out there. Who cares if you get an outcome from it? We live in a place where you have this 16:9 thing in your pocket. Just put something out there. Don't wait, create. So I think that's something that it's funny, because I find myself, you probably know too, going back in the thing of like, well, I'll just wait for the next audition, the opportunity. But then it's like, no, I have control over what creative output I want to put out there.
Yeah, and it's empowering too. It gives you some sense of, if it doesn't give you a sense of control, it gives you a sense of you're actually working at your craft. And like you said, you're not waiting for the email to come in.
Exactly.
You're not waiting for the audition. As far as AI goes, I think it's going to be a great servant in the short term. I just hope it doesn't become the master. You know what I mean? And it's weird, because I heard someone say, I can't attribute this to who, I forget, but they said that whatever you're the best at, whatever you're good at in your life, you're probably better at it than AI is. So in that in that respect, don't worry about it in the short term.
Yes. I also heard a really good quote. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it goes something like this. It was like, AI can create any story you want, but it can't create, see, I'm going to butcher it. I can't remember the end of that, but it was something like that. Like AI can create any story you want to see, but it can't create like the story you are, or something like that. But it just goes to show that, and I think we're at this interesting point because AI is it's dope, right? It's so cool what it can do. It's like it's exponentially getting better as we speak. I worked on this cool AI project recently, just explaining how a business does programming. And I was talking to the founder, and I was like, where do you see AI in 6 months? And he goes, we don't talk about that in Silicon Valley. We talk about where do you see this in 2 weeks, because it moves so fast.
Wow.
He's like, we constantly change our conversation every day because things are just going like that. So I feel like within the next couple of years, we will probably have a wave of all this video production, sound, music from AI, and we're just going to have to deal with it and use it. But I think after that high wave, it's going to come back because we'll be dying for human connection again, or dying for the human interaction again. But yeah, you can't stop it.
So we're talking about weeks in terms of its evolution.
Weeks, man.
That's exciting, and it's concerning, I think, at the same time, because
It really
seems like this unbridled horse.
Yeah.
And I like to think that this isn't going to happen until we're on Social Security, but I'm just afraid that long term, the studios are going to try to sell us customization. Like you talked in the beginning about, they're only going with tried and true IPs right now. They're not taking risks. I could see the day coming, whenever that is, 5, 10, 15 years, where they may say, hey, we don't even have to guess anymore at all. We have trillions and trillions of data points within AI, and we're going to sell the consumer customization. You're going to be able to pick up your remote and talk into it, and it's going to say, all right, what would you like to watch tonight, Bruce? And you're going to tell Netflix, give me a 90-minute sci-fi epic with a panda and a unicorn, and make the voices Denzel Washington and Bill Murray. And then 3 seconds later, here's your movie. Enjoy. Have a great night. And then you're creating the content, and they don't have to guess. They just have to collect the data points. And then, of course, that means our physical presence on a set is probably no longer required. And that's what scares me. That's what concerns me long term. Because I'm seeing it with ChatGPT gives you instant answers. You're seeing it with Sonora and some of these other programs where they're creating photorealistic humans that we already conquered the still photographs. Now we're seeing the video of humans that look photorealistic. It's not quite there yet, obviously, but man, it's close. So I can't help but wonder what the long term of this is going to be.
Yeah. And I think that's just for us to be, it's kind of like, I like to think of it. First of all, have you seen the Sora commercial of Toys R Us yet?
No.
Check that out. It's not perfect, of course, like you said, but it's damn impressive. It's like a minute. It's like a minute, and I think it's just a minute 10 seconds or something, but it's created just with Sora, and it's with Toys R Us. It's pretty interesting. But again, I think it's funny. I like to think of this. It's kind of like when cell phones started coming around, and like, if you think about our parents and our grandparents, you could either get left behind and not learn how to use it. Like a lot of our generational family before us, like our grandparents, I think a lot of them not dismissed it, but they're fidgety around it. They don't understand it. Or you can learn how to accept it and use it for creative ideas, or, really jump on that train to see how it can be used for creative possibilities. And of course, I'm not in the camp of I want to replace creatives and actors anytime ever, but I feel like for ideas, ChatGPT, like you said, you can just write a sentence and just give me ideas about this for a script, and it can punch out 10 in a second. So I just think we have to learn how to cooperate with it.
Of course. And I hope that I'm grateful that it's progressing the way it is, and I hope that it solves a lot of our problems. I just hope that someone has their handle on the reins.
Yeah. So we all wish that. Yeah. And I think the regulations, I think there can be regulations going forward. I don't think it'll fully stop it because it's already here. But like Newsom already signed that that bill to protect. But I feel like there's going to be wiggle room. People are going to find a way around that. Studios, want to save money this way. So there will be a little wiggle room there. But I'm glad that, SAG and Newsom has taken that step to try and protect us. But he also knows that you can't stop it.
Remains to be seen.
We're just along for the ride, man. We are.
I just hope that we have everything. Hollywood has constant stories of technologies becoming obsolete and then new ways of the industry being born. It goes right back to the silent era with sound, and then this industry being terrified of home video and VHS and learning to embrace that. I'm anxious to see how we embrace AI and how we work with it versus AI replacing us. I think that's going to be the challenge going forward.
Yeah, totally agree.
But getting back to the flesh and bone world that we still occupy for the time being, you've been out there 8-9 years, I'm guessing?
Yeah, hit 8 years in April of this year.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take me through a typical week or a month in LA acting terms, in the LA acting life. Give me a barometer of how many auditions you have, how long are the downtimes, what are you doing to supplement income, what are you doing to fill in your time. Give me a sense of a week or a month in your reality.
Sure, I'll give you two. I'll give you one when I first got here, back in 2016 till about 2019 before the pandemic, and then I'll give you kind of my current weekly, monthly. So when I first got here, as you know, since you've been here before, it's kind of like starting over, because you're letting go of everything and where you moved from, and then you're coming out here not knowing too many people, especially not the casting directors, all that. So it was kind of like a refresh, setting up the casting sites again, reaching out to agents, doing all that. It was really cool. When I first moved here, I actually kind of mirroring what I was doing on the East Coast. So I got right on the casting sites. I was applying for some student films again and some independent films. And there's a New York Film Academy that's right next to Warner Brothers. And got out here, and my first audition here, I booked with a student film and had some cool stuff for my reel already, within the first couple months, which was cool to add to my reel. So when I first got out here, got into catering just as a survival gig. And then did that for a little bit. And then after that, just to have a little bit more sustainability, I wanted to have a little bit more hours. I got a restaurant gig with a place that was opening up in the early 2017-ish. So, it was great because I would just work nights, and then I would have the mornings, afternoons to audition or get sent on auditions if my agent sent me. The flexibility was great. Can't deny that working in the service industry at night is probably the most flexible you can get, because you can always trade shifts. You can have the morning and afternoon to do your creative work. Especially for me, I find that my mornings are the most creative and productive. So that was great. So when I first got here, it was like starting over, got into class, got into improv, getting those just different things to see on my resume that I know that it would look good on an LA resume. And not long after that, got my first commercial agent. And then it was kind of like pretty picking up. He would send me out probably once or twice a week. And then, some downtime, of course, because that's just the nature. Yeah, and that's kind of how it was when I first got here, and just slowly building like I did when I was in Philly first starting. Slowly building, just more experience. It's just kind of like going on the staircase, you just get better, stay in class, meet new people. And then the pandemic happened, and it was just kind of this cool reset, as I'm sure you know, that you just kind of look back and you're kind of like, okay, what are my priorities here? I have all this time. What do I really want to focus on with my time? Because it's the most important thing, right? So the restaurant, probably about a year after the pandemic started, I had a chance to go back or not. And I was like, I really don't want to go back to the restaurant job. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going full time into just keep going in this way. And I feel like the universe kind of rewarded me in that, because ever since the pandemic, this has been my primary focus. And I haven't had to work a side gig, which I'm very grateful for. And I just kind of look at it like the investment I put in since when I first started acting in 2008 is finally paying off dividends. It's kind of like a reward of sticking with it, for this long, getting rewarded with bigger things, bigger opportunities. It's kind of like once you let go of that old life, the new life can show up. And ever since, it's been reliant just on acting, which is the goal for every actor, which is supremely grateful for. Again, 80% of that has been commercials, which I'm very grateful for. Chance to work 1 day, 2 days and get a good payday. Meet new directors. And it's funny, this time, a lot of film directors move over to commercials because they just want the payday as well. And it's another creative outlet when things aren't happening theatrically. And now the timeline of auditions, the commercial land is fully booming, I feel. So I usually get like 2-3 commercial auditions a week from my agent. Theatrically, it has, like you said, been a little slower. I actually have been getting more submissions from my agent to audition for shows shooting in New York than LA right now. Because we can work locally to Philly, New York, Jersey.
Interesting.
And, yeah, it is interesting. There has been like 2 or 3 in the past month that have been New York shooting shows. So that's been interesting. But yeah, so just going through that. And then downtime, like you said at the top of the episode, I had this idea just to do a daily video or a quote or a picture on my Instagram. It's just a little bit of me that gets posted every day. I like to be positive, share inspirational things, be goofy, whatever I'm feeling, and just have that as a little creative outlet every day. And I'm not looking for followers or likes. I'm just looking as my own expression to come through this creative realm that we call Instagram to come out. So that's been a really fun thing, and just posting previous work on there, commercials I've done, adventures with my girlfriend, just beautiful nature in California.
It's awesome. I get to live vicariously through you.
There you go.
So how much of a magnetic pull are the canyons and the beach? Is it really difficult some days to just say, hey, I'm not going to focus on work today. I'm going to bag it. I'm just going to chill.
The weather, it is so nice out here. And when people say it's so expensive to live in California, well, I'm like, look, you're paying for the mountains. You're paying for the snow when it happens. You're paying for the beach. You're paying for the landscape. I love the beach so much. I think for me personally, and I know how people can get caught in the beautifulness of the weather, it's been actually the opposite. I'm actually looking for more time to go hiking to the beach, just because I feel like we can get so stuck in pursuing succeeding at this in the industry that maybe just a little bit more adventure time would fulfill that even more, because it's easy to get caught up in the things of the routine of like self-tapes today, submitting today, industry news today, all that stuff, where the day goes by in a flash and you're like, oh, now I got to cook dinner and go to bed. So it's kind of like finding the time to actually make time for the outside events, socializing, going to the beach, which would probably pay off to the success anyway.
It's interesting. Like everyone that I met when I was out there 12 years ago were knuckling down. They're either under a roof working, or they had no time to do whatever they wanted to do, but it was working hard within the industry. And like you said, time for bed, time for the next day. I think I went to Santa Monica Pier one day and I saw maybe 2 people who were having Bloody Marys outside at 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, but I don't know who those individuals were. God bless them if they can do it. But it wasn't any of the creatives that I was running into. It's like they were all ducks, moving their feet really quickly under the water in terms of keeping up.
Yeah.
And that applies to you.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, yes. But I know that scheduling time to do just a day where you just wander around the city and just explore new things and see new things that you've never seen before. I mean, I've been here 8 years and I've probably seen about 25% of the city, LA, Burbank. I'm in Burbank. So it's kind of like, there's still so much to explore and see, even though I've been here 8 years. So it's about making time and knowing that can fulfill my work as well. Seeing nature and seeing different things, different perspectives, meeting new people. I think it's, trying to lean more into that too, because that can feed the creativity.
And that obviously is what you're doing with Instagram with your daily dose. In terms of the apex or the growth of your career, take me to this veterans TV, this vet TV that I recently discovered. You did 20 episodes of A Grunt's Life for Veterans Television. It's a network that produces military content for veterans and those who are interested in the military. Tell me the story about how you landed A Grunt's Life.
Yeah, just like any other job. It was my first full year out here, so this was 2017. Just like any other job, went to an audition for a show, and they had it at one of the local casting offices, and just auditioned and forgot about it. And then it happened that they cast me about a month later in this military show. So I was like, this is pretty cool. This is a cool opportunity. It wasn't the best paying at the time. It was like a day rate, a normal day rate at the time for 2017. It was this military show about Marines in Afghanistan during like 2007, 2008. So I show up to set, and we were going to be shooting about 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks in the summer in the middle of Lake Elsinore. If anyone doesn't know where Lake Elsinore is, it's kind of near Temecula. And, they had to make it look kind of like Afghanistan-y. So they had like hills in the back, and then they had this sand, and they built like a patrol base in the sand. Awesome. It was so cool. But it was effing hot, man. It was probably like 108 when we started shooting, and this was the middle of July. And just picture almost like Palm Springs in the summer. So we get there, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, am I going to have to put up with this for 4.5 weeks? I'm like, this is horrible. Like, this is going to be shitty. This is probably not going to be a great production. Turns out my first day walking onto set, patrol base, before entering the actual base, they had 3 papers posted on the outside, and it was just like emails from people. And this is what changed my mind. There was an email from someone that watched their content before, and I don't think they had the streaming site quite yet. I think they were just doing content on YouTube. And it was from a veteran. It said, "Hey guys, thank you so much for producing the content you produce. I literally thought about killing myself last week, but your content saved my life." And I was just like, I was just like shocked when I read that, because like, holy shit, this is bigger than me. Like, I'm just here as a little bit of an underpaid actor complaining about the heat in my mind. And I'm like, whoa, that switched my perspective like that. I was like, this is bigger than me.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit. Like, I think that was the first time something like that had an impact, knowing that this storytelling could actually impact a movement of vets, especially. And I know that community is probably one of the most undervalued communities.
That's an incredible story. So Veterans TV is making content. These are true, authentic stories that veterans can relate to, or stories that certain respects of the military community have witnessed.
Totally, definitely. And it's not Hollywoodized at all. You're going to see graphic content. You're going to see dudes joking about women, sex, drugs, alcohol, that shit. But that's what they really go through. That's all they have. That's all they have when they serve. It's just that camaraderie, togetherness when they're freaking bored as hell in the middle of nowhere in a patrol base, fighting for the wrong reasons, because you have this higher power that just wants them, that just cares about himself and is putting all his men in danger. And that was a big theme of the first season, was this, based on a true story, was this higher lieutenant or CFO, I forget what the actual ranking was, but he would constantly put his men in undeniably horrible paths of danger for no good reason, just so he could up his rank. And that was based on a real story. Like, they would send him out on missions for no reason, just to go through minefields for no reason. And it was so cool, man. It was probably the most proud I am of working with people and vets at the same time, because the cast was about half veterans, half actors, and you couldn't tell the difference. You're like, man, these people are so good, and the veterans are like newly acting in the show because they served with the main guy who owns Veteran TV. His name's Donnie O'Malley, great guy, and it was so cool just to come together and see the camaraderie. It felt like everyone was serving together. That's how cool it was. And shot the first season, was really proud, and then 4 years later, he wanted to do a second season, so we did that. And in between, they intermingle. They do a lot of scripted series, but in between, they intermingle some sketch comedy in it. They have some stand-up specials from veterans on the streaming network. And then they also have some documentary-style pieces on there, too. all for $4.99 a month. So it's pretty reasonable, for vets to get and watch. And you'll see at the end of every episode, they have a call to action to call someone you serve with, just to check in on them, see how they're doing, which is so important with people you serve with. So yeah, one of the most humbling experiences I've had as an actor so far, just being a part of that community. And, sometimes I've gotten recognized like maybe 4 or 5 times from people out in the world being like, were you on a Grunts Live? And I was like, yeah. And then they're just like, did you serve? And I'm like, no. So it's funny how many people thought I've served because of my portrayal in the actual series. So super fun. It's just one of the most proudest moments being part of those.
It sounds it. I have a similar story where I did work on the Great War Association. We did a museum video for the GWA trenches out in central Pennsylvania, and I got to literally roll around in the rock and in the dirt. I had explosives going off around me. I was a mustard gas victim. That your experience and my experience in these particular jobs really hammers home the compassion that we feel immediately for these men. Like every job we have to, as an actor, we can't be judgmental about who we're portraying. We have to get under their skin. We have to figure out the hows and the whys of what makes them tick and why they do what they do. But it's easy in these scenarios to say, hey, you get to put on these boots for a little while, no pun intended, and get a taste of what war is like and what conflict is like, and being away from your family and wrestling with, am I going to live another day? And the level of compassion and care and understanding that you have by doing this job has to be just off the charts with these veterans.
Yeah, it's the appreciation of like even the comments on the videos. It goes such a long way. And I think sometimes actors, we question whether you're making an impact or not, or, does this story really matter? I think it's a resounding yes. I mean, you can have the smallest part in something, just for example, like you could be a janitor in a show or something and just relate to janitors, and they could have this experience of like, wow, someone actually does appreciate what goes into this. Someone does appreciate this job. Someone does appreciate the story of, this life. So even the smallest part can resound with anyone. I think that's why stories, movies, TV shows still exist, is because there's, we have a lot of grandiosing of things, but I still think at the core is the story of love, of acceptance, fully seeing people as who they are, whatever they do, whatever job they do, or whatever the character is. So I think that's the fundamental tenets of, why we do this in the first place.
Beautiful experience you had. Congratulations on that opportunity to have that consistency of work and to have that school, for lack of a better word, that you got to go to and, be able to make friends with new actors and to have a new appreciation, understanding of conflict and war and what our veterans go through. So really, really cool opportunity for you. Hats off to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's going to be hard to beat that, unless if something on a different scale. But yeah, just connecting in that way, in that weather, with those people will be a memory I never forget. So definitely grateful for that.
Well, speaking of memories, I saw recently on your IG that you got to meet an actor that you're a fan of. So tell me about running into Zach Braff.
Yeah, super universal full circle moment for me. It's exciting because when I first started getting into acting, I was in community college and I was going for graphic design. I always knew I wanted to do something creative. And just going back a little bit further than that, I was always the kid in high school I had a really close friend who was a triple threat: sing, dance, move, act on the stage. He was awesome. He was really good. And I would always like sit in the audience and look up at him and be like, man, he's so good. I wish I could do that. So fast forwarding, in community college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, graphic design. And then I just remember taking a little bit of time off in that first semester. I was like, what do I really want to do? And at that time, my favorite show was Scrubs. I was like, I want to do that. I want to try that. And, that's where Zach Braff comes in. Just the cast of that was so fun to watch. It was like this zany comedy, but it also reflected hospital life in a new way. And it was a really fun watch, at least for me. So yeah, I kind of tie him to the reason I started acting, because Scrubs was the reason why I wanted to start acting. So took my first acting class, fell in love, been a story ever since. So out here in LA, I find out that Zach, I don't know if he's the owner, but he's definitely an investor of a restaurant that primarily focuses on breakfast foods. So good. It's called Salt's Cure. It's got these griddle cakes that are made out of oatmeal, and they serve this delicious bacon. Their avocado toast is good. I'm sounding like a total LA bruncher right now.
You've been converted.
Yeah, I've been converted. No more pork roll for me, buddy.
Come on, bring Scrapple to LA, Bruce. Come on.
I want to, man. So anyway, we've been there a few times, and about 2 weeks ago, we decided to go again. And it's so trippy, man. I had this vision in my head when I was outside journaling, because I like to journal in the morning. And it was just like, I'm going to see Zach there today, because like he's a frequent visitor, because he's either an investor there or owns the place. And it was like, okay, cool, whatever happens. Went about my morning, and then we decided to go for brunch. And we're having brunch outside, my girlfriend and I. And I told her this vision I had. I was like, I'm probably going to see Zach here eventually, because I know he owns the place. So this guy pulls up in a Porsche right outside on the curb. And my girlfriend, I'm facing this way, my girlfriend's facing the street kind of, and she's looking, and she goes, oh my God, Bruce, I think that's Zach. I'm like, no. She's like, no, I think it is. Like, he's like having trouble parking. I looked, and he's wearing a hat. I'm like, okay, cool. So he comes in the restaurant, he sits at the bar area, and he's sitting next to this one woman and another woman. And I look over, and I'm like, that could be him. It looks kind of like him, because I can't see his face. So I go to the bathroom, and then I'm walking back, and he's like in my peripheral, and I'm like, that's him. I'm like, that's him. So I was like, you get that feeling of like a little bit of starstruck, but then this person's just a person, like a fellow creative, and it's like, oh my God, and my heart's beating, because I'm like, do I go up and talk to him, or do I just let him go? Like, it looks like he's talking to a woman, and I don't want to be like a cock block. But we get up to leave, and it was like the perfect opportunity. This dog that was in the restaurant, yes, you can have dogs in restaurants in LA, passes, and then Zach and the girl like turn to look at the dog, and they're like, oh, so cute. And then I was like, okay, this is my shot, because we were exiting. I was like, that was the perfect time. I was like, excuse me, Zach. Hey man, just want to say I'm a huge fan. I love your movies. He just recently came out with a movie he directed and wrote called A Good Person about 2 years ago, I want to say. Really good film. Beautiful. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. That was my baby, so I really appreciate that. And then I was like, I just want to say, as a fellow actor, Scrubs is one of the reasons that I got into acting. So thank you so much for doing that. He said, oh man, I really appreciate that. I was like, one more thing. Do you mind if I get a picture with you? So my girlfriend was kind of exiting, and I was like, hey babe, can you go take a picture of Zach and I? So took a picture of us, and yeah, that's what landed on my Bruce's Daily Dose about 2 weeks ago. So it was kind of like a universal full circle moment. And he seemed like a very great guy. You can't tell based on like a 3-minute experience, but willing to take a picture, really kind, kind of who I pictured him, how he would be. But yeah, it's kind of like it was just a trippy universal thing of like, wow, I actually got to meet one of the reasons why I'm out here. So it was cool.
It's incredible that you had the premonition, number one.
Yeah.
And then we all know the adage about meeting our heroes, how that could be a cautionary tale. So the risk was high for you. Like, God forbid if he was having a bad day.
Totally.
Yeah.
You just never know. You never know.
No.
Yeah. And when I worked in West Hollywood, you get to see some people come into the restaurant, and you have some good days with them, or you have some kind of like iffy days with them, so you never know what version you're going to get of a celebrity you look up to. A really cool experience was David Spade used to come into our restaurant all the time. And he was always so goofy. He would like have his newspaper because he was getting ready to do some stand-up later. And then he would sit in the booth like with his legs crossed like a little kid. And he would just like get the same thing every time. And we didn't sell like Coke products. So he would come in with a bottle of Coke and then have like a little splash of tequila with it, or vodka. Tito's vodka and Coke, and his Coke, because we didn't sell the actual Coke. He's like, I can't believe you guys don't sell Coke products here. But he was just so fun. The nicest guy. He would tip 40% every time. Just so nice. So nice. Really funny. So it's really cool. Some of the stories you get when you go around out here and you run into people.
Nice. Really nice.
Yeah.
So that's 2 for 2 at least. Very good.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's been a long time since we've seen each other in person, and it's been a while since we've caught up. But one of the endearing things that I know about you is how positive you are and how you look at the bright side. Like when I saw that you were quoting Esther Hicks here and there on Instagram, I thought, that's my guy. I kind of knew it from day one, but now I really know it. So like we're kind of on that wavelength. And along those lines, I know you have probably an encyclopedia's worth of inspirational quotes or musings along those lines. But if you can think of 1 or 2 pearls of wisdom that the acting industry has taught you or that life has taught you that you carry forward with you most days, what would they be?
Yeah. The one that's coming to mind that I kind of recently adopted as a mantra within the past year or two, just create unconditionally. We spend, as actors, creatives, we spend a lot of time caring what other people think, caring about whether the director or casting director is going to like this, or our fellow actor is going to like this, or whatever your brain wants to say judgmentally. This creating unconditionally thing gives you permission to, when you audition for things or create content, you're not looking for that outside result or the approval of someone or getting a certain amount of reaction to it. You're just kind of taking control where you can, accepting what wants to birth through you to come out of you, and just create it unconditionally with no conditions, no expectation of a result. I think that's really helped my auditioning too, because if you think about it, the actor is going to have the most control in the audition. So why not take that creating into your own hands and just play however you want to play? Because if you get the job on set, you're kind of going to be told what to do, where to stand, how to react. Give me more of this, give me less of this. But in the audition, no one's there to give you that. It's just you and yourself. I'm not saying go crazy and, try to perform this insane kind of thing to get attention. I'm just saying that if you have a feeling, follow the feeling and put out what you want to put out, because that's coming from you and coming from whatever source wants to work through you out into the piece of what you're doing. So that's been a huge one for me, is create unconditionally. And it's always a constant reminder of like, just throw this out there without any expectation of getting the job or making someone like you, a casting director or a director. Just take control of the reins and just have fun. Have fun is probably the primary reason why I do this. People ask, why are you an actor? And I can't come up with an answer rather than it's fun. That's really the whole thing. If I'm looking for a reason, I think I'm just justifying why I'm acting, but just my soul wants to say it's fun, and I like exploring that part. So yeah, I think that's the biggest one for me.
I think the world would be much better off if we were all allowed to do what we found fun.
I think so too, man.
Well, you're doing it. I'm doing it. We found that way, and here's to creating unconditionally and to following feelings.
Yeah, man. Love that so much.
You can, if you need a daily dose of Bruce, you can follow him on his Instagram. And Bruce Clifford, thank you so much for being with me. And let's cross our paths soon, shall we?
Yeah, Paul, we need to play some golf out here, man.
How's the golf game?
It's okay. I've been going back and forth every time I see my dad, or my dad comes to visit out here. He always kicks my ass. So I'm always trying to get back at him. But yeah, I get out every time I can, hit balls, or I don't know if you've ever played. We're pretty close to DeBell. Have you ever played DeBell out here?
I haven't played DeBell. I've played Angeles National, and I played Trump National in Palos Verdes.
Nice. Yeah. Los Angeles National is nice. I haven't been to Trump yet, but
I had one ball left on the 18th hole. I went out there, I played 2 rounds of golf, and I lost all my balls in the wiry brush right off the fairways of Angeles. And the bitch of that was that the four caddy was telling me, if you're 2 feet off the fairway, you're going to lose your ball in the brush. And sure as shit, I did. So I went through 8 or 9 balls that day. The next day I'm at Trump National. I lost 2 or 3. And then I'm on 18. I've got out of bounds right in the Pacific Ocean on my left. And I have 1 ball left. I have never felt more pressure playing by myself in my entire life. But I'm happy to say that I parred the hole, and I took a moment and I looked out. onto the Pacific, and I felt like I won the U.S. Open. So,
there's no greater feeling, man. There's no greater feeling than parring the 18th with that situation. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's my LA golf story for the time.
Speaking of which, I just want to say, man, I love that commercial for TaylorMade you did. So cool.
I'm still high off that.
I love that so much. Did you shoot that in Florida?
We shot in West Palm Beach. Yeah, we shot, I went into West Palm. We shot in Jupiter. We shot at Trump National Jupiter. And it was, they were looking for one guy. I had 2 callbacks. The director told me that they had to sell me to the client. They had to sell me to TaylorMade because TaylorMade wasn't too happy with my swing. But the director said that you were the only one that we auditioned that hit the acting beats. So they had collegiate golfers who had picture perfect swings, but they weren't actors. Whereas I was primarily the actor who recreationally plays golf. And that's what they were looking for anyway. They were looking for the average Joe for the commercial. And I didn't know the extent of it until I got there. Like I did the script for the audition, but I didn't have names. I didn't know who was going to be in it. And then I get there, and then my agent sends me this Instagram clip from the casting director saying, "Do you look like these golfers?" And the golfers were Rory McIlroy, Brooke Henderson, Tommy Fleetwood, Colin Morikawa, and Tiger Woods. And I went, wait a minute, Tiger's going to be there? And Tiger plays the driver, the TaylorMade driver. He doesn't play the golf ball. He plays a Bridgestone, but he was there anyway to film the content for TaylorMade along with the rest of the TaylorMade sponsored pros for 3 or 4 days. They took over the course. And around this time of the year, they're doing all of their content for the following year. So that's how it works. So for over the span of several days, they do everything. They do all the commercials. They do all the social media stuff, all the behind the scenes stuff that they put out throughout the course of the year. So I got to watch Tiger, Rory, and Colin Morikawa do the Forgiveness commercial. I was standing on the back of the driving range when they did that. And then it took 2 days to film my commercial where I hit the putt in front of Rory and Colin and Brooke and Tommy. And I'm proud to say, by the grace of God, I think I called in a couple of, lives with the powers that be, but I said, please let one of these putts drop. Please let one of these putts drop. And by the grace of God, one of the 4 did drop. And it's the one they used in the commercial. And I got fist pumps from everybody. And at the time, Rory was the #1 golfer in the world. So I'm just to say that still gives me that adrenaline rush. And on the second day, it was just me and Ricky Fowler. And Ricky and I are just standing 5 feet apart on the green for an hour. And we just shot the shit. He was remarkably candid, down to earth. He comes as advertised. He is Joe Cool and just a laid back dude. And you and I are very taller than he is. But yeah, he could pump that ball out there, 330, 340. And that's what I was thinking the entire time I'm talking to him. I'm like, how can this guy get that ball out there that far? It's their economy of movement and everything they use in terms of swing speed and body movements just is used to generate that ball speed and club head speed, and it just blows my mind. So I can't believe I got paid for it. Number one, I would have done it for free. I felt like I won a sweepstakes, and it's been 2 years already. But my God, it was the coolest commercial as of this taping that I have ever done.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's my TaylorMade story.
Yeah, it's such a dream as an actor and a golfer to be like, wow, I got to do that. That's such a cool thing to do when you actually do something in real life and then you actually get to act for it. I mean, you don't consider it acting at that point, but it's just like, wow, it's aligned. So cool.
Yeah. I'm looking for the rope because normally I'm on the gallery side and I'm watching the pros in the fairway, and here they are next to me. I'm hobnobbing with them and I'm going, why does this feel strange? Why does this feel odd? And I kept having to pinch myself and say, you're allowed to be here. Don't feel imposter's complex. They're not going to kick you out. You're here because they wanted you to be here.
Yeah, especially selling you to the client. I mean, that's nothing. That's why they say get an actor to do the job instead of the actor, like a chef per se. Like a chef is going to be great at what they do, but they're not necessarily going to be the best on camera. So that just goes to show that if you're really good at what you know, actors know how to work the camera, know how to bring the beats, like you said. Yeah, that's beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah, it was a cool one. And I've heard that story before too, or that example where, especially in the industrial world, where I'll hear the client say, well, we wanted to have real doctors talk about the drug or how to administer the drug. But when they get in front of a camera, it's a deer in headlights situation. So I always feel like a little, like a puncture of the stomach with a knife and a twist when someone says, we don't want actors, we want real people. Because it's almost as if you're saying, you don't trust us to do our jobs.
We're not real.
Yeah, I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. When I first got on the dating apps years ago, I put, I enjoy pretending to be other people. That didn't go too far with the ladies. They misconstrued that a little bit.
Of course. That's hilarious.
They're like, who the F are you to say that? I'm thinking, I better change this in the bio and just put actor rather than trying to be cute about it.
That's great.
So yeah, so that's gone. That's gone from the apps.
Yeah.
Great stories, great sharing with you. Keep up the great work, and let's tee it up one of these days soon, shall we?
Yeah, please. If when I'm back, or if I come back, I'll let you know, and we can get out there. So we can definitely do that, even just to catch up.
Beautiful. Bruce Clifford, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much, Paul. Much appreciated.